if you're going to have black on black violence, I suggest to you that you must also have white on white violence. Why the double standard? Why the racial introduction in the context? It's deliberate.
All right. My question to the eye now, because the police play a big role into this.
Hey yo, Ijahstars. Want them know, sir. Okay, are you the king of representing them? Watch you now.
No.
Ijahstars.
I say without fear or favor that it is not about our African community trusting the police. First and foremost, we must trust ourselves.
True.
And we must realize that the solution for our problems with our youths lies with us. It does not lie with the police of more police and more so-called social workers, etc. It is our responsibility as African parents and grandparents to deal with our youths who are misguided, who have been led astray, because they are our children no matter what, and it is for us to deal with them and to discipline them and to bring them to the fold. You notice I'm not making excuses and saying that you don't have some of our youths who do wrongs.
You do.
But it is for us
Yes.
always to recognize that they are our children, because you and I, we are fathers and grandfathers. So is our esteemed camera brother. Our children are not just our biological children. Our children are also the children of our brethren and sisterins and others.
True.
So it is a Marcus Garvey principle, that self-reliance, that we are responsible for dealing with our community. Now, we live in a country, we know the ratio of the population, there is necessarily interaction between the social services and the police force, etc. But it's for us to organize, and when we deal with these outside organizations outside of our community, that we have our own manifesto, our own agenda, our own plan of action, so that we are not the victims of what they would want to put on us, but that we set the agenda and we maintain our agenda, and that we are not used against each other for the benefit of people who are not Africans, whether they are in uniform or not.
Rastafari. All right. Interesting. We want to turn the attention to reggae music. See, because we see over the weekend past. We're now in July. If you're watching this late.
Yes.
We see over the weekend. We see here in England. We see the country show. Which is a 2-day festival.
Saturday and Sunday, Lambeth Country, in Brockwell Park.
And we also see Sumfest in Jamaica.
Yes.
In Montego Bay.
Reggae Sumfest.
Right? And that is another couple days, three-day event or something like that.
Something like that. And I think, if my memory serves right, that Sumfest is now 20 years old. Took over from Reggae Sunsplash when people in the Montego Bay, St. James area, with the withdrawal of Reggae Sunsplash, came with Reggae Sumfest, because they depended on their hotels and other business places benefiting. And of course, 1998, 20 years ago, since Jamaica got into the World Cup. And let me just say this, Jamaica has not been in the World Cup since, not because we don't have talented and brilliant Jamaican footballers, but there's a serious problem of discipline with our football players.
Rastafari. We never want to take the reasoning there. But
another time we will deal with that.
Another time we'll deal with that issue there still. Here in England, see, the country show, we don't see much reggae artists of such coming from Jamaica performing and this country show. And you know, over the years it have publicized or advertised more as a reggae type of show. You know, most of the people that you see,
they come because of the reggae on Sunday.
Yes. What do I view upon you know, the lack of reggae artists? We see people like Bugle last year.
Yes.
And we only see Johnny Clark this year. I think Steel Pulse.
David Hines from Steel Pulse.
Was there.
From Birmingham. Yeah.
But he's also a British virgin.
Born in Britain, yes. David Hines, yes.
What do I view?
My view is this. Again, as Malcolm X and Marcus Garvey says, you know, study of history is most rewarding, and a people without a knowledge of their past culture and roots is like a tree without roots.
True.
So, talk about Rockwell Park, where we are
right now,
in Brixton, in Lambeth. Historically, some of the first reggae events, some of, if not the first, in terms of sound systems, was when my brethren, and I'm proud to say my brethren, Lloyd Coxon of Sir Coxon Sound System, man originally from Cottage Pen, St. Thomas, Paul Boga Parish, Eastern Jamaica.
Yes, sir.
And Jim Daddy from my parents' parish of Manchester in Jamaica. I went to his funeral, as did Lloyd some years ago. Played in Brockwell Park many years ago. And I was reasoning with my brethren, Lloyd Coxon, who said, Mandingo, you know what I remember about it? When Jim Daddy and I played in Brockwell Park, when we applied for permission, because you just don't come in the park and set up, you have to let the council know, Lambeth Council. They said, oh, go ahead, no problem. He said the police and Lambeth Council, they were shocked at the vast crowd that the reggae sound system, Jim Daddy and Lloyd Coxon drew. They were taken totally off guard. He said the next year, the council and police changed tack. They started to demand all kind of clauses, you know, those kind of clauses that really telling you no more of this.
Yes. Yes.
And asking for some thousands of pounds, he said, if my memory serves me right, as some kind of bond or insurance. In other words, using money to price you out of thing.
To run your way.
Yeah. Because before this Lambeth Country Fair was just a small little thing, you know. It's the reggae that drew the crowd, just like how it's reggae that made the Notting Hill Gate Carnival big. It's the sound systems that made Notting Hill Gate Carnival big.
All right.
And what happened? What I noticed with this one, the crowd was down. Every year, for some years, the crowd was bigger and bigger, especially on the Sunday, which is when you have the reggae acts. And what happened was this. This year, for the first time, the crowd was down for several reasons. One, when people found out that the entire area where it was going to be kept was going to be walled off, a kind of Berlin wall. But since it's not Berlin, Brockwell Park wall.
Brockwell Park wall.
Brockwell Park wall. It was walled off. So you could not enter, you could not leave, unless you were going through the exits for this wall. That's the first thing. Two, Some people were put off that for the first time there was going to be body searches of individuals. Not just body searches, 3, there was going to be the searches of any bags that you had on you. 4, people who drink alcohol would buy from the off-license or wherever and bring a drink. No alcohol was allowed. That's 4. 5, because I'm a journalist, as you also know, in addition to being a record producer, Mandingo label, Sugar Minot, every little thing you run to Babylon, General Echo, sex educational class, General Echo again, African national heroes. When you went to the bar, I in my capacity as a journalist, I walked all about. I came both days because I didn't want anyone to tell me what happened. I wanted to see firsthand.
Firsthand, yes.
Water and soft drinks were being sold for an average of £2 and £2.50. Beer was being sold for £4.50. Those are the prices. When it came on to the music thing, I noticed that for the first time you had more acts from Lambeth, people who live in Lambeth,
yes,
performing. Before, you were having people who were not from Lambeth doing most of the performances. But it was because I and others criticized that how can you be having a Lambeth country fair, a reggae section, and you're not involving people from Lambeth on the bill in substantial numbers. So that changed where that's concerned. Johnny Clark was the best artist. He has the hits and he's a stage performer. He didn't close the show, and I think that he should have closed the show. The people who closed the show came after him. Prince the Fourth from Aswad, David Hines from Steel Pulse, coming from Birmingham. Their album, Handsworth Revolution, was produced by my schoolmate at Kingston Technical, the engineer, Carl Peterson, my schoolmate at Kingston Technical High School. Okay. He and I and Scotty, who did Joy Your Breaks, who you know, we went Kingston Technical at the same time. They were 1 year ahead of me. Muta Baruka, Philip Linton, that's Arrow Sound, from West Avenue off Windward Road, Franklin Town. Donald Darling of Black Star Sound, they were 1 year below me at Kingston Technical. Errol Brown, the nephew of Duke Reed, he was 1 year ahead of me with Orville Bagger case, just like Carl Peterson at Kingston Technical. I'm just giving that to show the context of how things are. So it's a Kingston Technical man, my friend Carl Peterson, that launched the career as a producer and engineer for Steel Pulse, Handsworth Revolution. Johnny Clark should have closed the show. Dennis Bugle, who I know from a long time, from Battersea area and so on, he was performing, musician. I knew him when Lloyd Coxon got the band that he was in, Matumbi, to back my brethren, Iroy, when Iroy came here first in 1973, because Lloyd Coxon brought Iroy here on his first tour. Matumbi was a backing band. That's how they knew me and Iroy. Right? And what has happened is that Dennis was not a singer in Matumbi. He was the guitarist. Blake, Ethan Blake, from St. Elizabeth, Jamaica, was the bass player. Utan Jones, from Jonestown, St. Andrew, Jamaica, was the drummer, the original drummer. Later on, it was my brethren, Bonnie, from Alman Town, who became the drummer. But I'm talking initially. Yes. And of course, Bevin Fagan was the most regular voice man singer with the group, you know, Matumbi. So I'm saying this to say that Dennis Bugle, who performed as a singer, I mean, he was the one who, as I said, who sang Man in Me and After Tonight. It's others, Fagan and our next Virgin, who sang that. But Dennis keeps on working and works well and gives his all. David Hines performed, Brins the Fourth from Aswad performed, because he and the other two members, Drummy and Tony Robinson, they don't work together again. And they were okay. But, you know, I the Mandingo, I tell it like it is. They were okay, but they never had that fire like what Johnny Clark had and would have brought in close in the show. Because Johnny worked for almost an hour, you know. Never wanted to come off the stage because, you know, he has the hits and he's a performer. And that would have been the right person to headline the show. And I agree with you that it's you're having this lack of Jamaican reggae artists in the Lambeth country fair situation. And why I'm saying that, the borough that has the most amount of Africans isn't Lambeth, as some people mistakenly believe. It's actually Brent, where we have Halsey, Wilson and so on. That's the borough that has the largest percentage of Africans from Africa and the Caribbean as African people together. Lambeth comes second. But what is noticeable about Lambeth is that Lambeth, especially the Brixton area in Lambeth, has a strong or had a strong Jamaican presence, because we know they have been doing everything to get rid of us out of Brixton.
Hey, yo, Ijahstars. One them know, sir. Okay, are you the king of representing them? Watch you now. Ijahstars. Tell them when I come from far, but now we are superstar. Give thanks for every day. Life for the greatest. Ijahstars, I do it. Recognize greatness.